Hello and welcome to New Game Plus. My name's Cringy and we've got a pretty packed show for you. Coming up after PAX for you, it is before PAX for us, and we're going to be talking about some of the stuff we've been up to recently in terms of the games we've been playing, some of the events around PAX, including Melbourne International Games Week, as well as a review a little bit later on in the program of South Park, I believe. But I'm going to need a little bit of help to get through the episode, and so I've got help. Here we are.
Like Spirit Bomb, like Genki Dama, like share your energy. I don't know.
Look, I haven't got any energy. Let's not talk about it. Meg, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Good to have me back. It's been a long time.
I say back is
Yeah. Retro.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey man, like it is a very long time ago. I was a much younger man last time you were on, so welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome me.
You're a younger man. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So,
And Jason, you just don't leave.
I don't leave. No, I'm unfortunately part of the furniture. So that's. But yes, thank you, Jack, for hosting while you're in town.
Yeah.
How does it feel? Your paved roads, electricity, it's a new thing.
Yeah. Like NBN. Oh no, sorry. That's hard. No, yeah. In town for PAX, in town for a few other events as well.
I'm so excited. Oh, it's such a big time of year.
PAX is like it's always thrilling, but always terrifying.
It's my Christmas.
And then,
by the way.
then we go into like Madman Fest as well.
Yeah,
So
Mad
it's
Fest
and
is
that's
coming
gonna
up
be huge for us.
real
So that's
soon. Yeah. So probably end up getting some coverage from that. Get something out of that.
That's the hope.
A lot of exhaustion.
Yeah.
But in terms of like games that you've been playing lately, like have you guys been sinking your teeth into anything?
Look, the big one's South Park, which we cover later.
Yeah.
But honestly, I got Pokken. I've just been playing so much Pokken. So
Really?
I love
Is it what you
Pokken.
wanted it to be?
Look, it's the DX version of the Switch one. So it's like, it's the fancy version, it's got everything in it. It's got all the characters from the arcade machine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it plays the same. And so the big thing with it plays a lot of DOA. So it's like counter hits beat like normal hits, normal hits beat throws, throws beat counter hits. So it's very DOA, like attack triangle, right? So from my fighting game background, it fits perfect. So I know it, I play it, I love it, and I'm not even that big a Pokemon kid. Like Pokemon are cool.
What made you pick it up in the first place then?
Well, it was like originally we were doing a bunch of activations with CW, so we were like running it advanced and stuff like that, and really engaging the community. But because it plays like DOA, I really enjoyed it. So I just stuck on it and then just stuck with it. But I mean, I like ARMS, so what do I know?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm a big fan as well, actually.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Well, it's
Twintel, Bay.
Look, play the cheat all you want. That's fine.
Well, okay. Lollipop ain't bad as well.
That's
really OP.
Look, the main problem with Twintel is she gets that free hit, hey. So it's like,
the booty is distracting.
And that's what it is. Like, it's like I'm imagining like anime gleam off like off her like spandex pants. Like,
eyes on the prize. You can't look anywhere else.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Have you been into ARMS a lot lately, or into a few other games?
Yeah, I've been smashing ARMS a lot actually.
Yeah.
I'm not into the motion controls, which is exciting for me. Yeah, so I'm playing with Pro Controller and getting really into it. But besides the Switch, I'm also playing Thimbleweed Park.
Going retro.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic. I'm really loving it. The story is adorable, very endearing.
Well, that's one of those things, like point and clicks, as far as games go, it's hard to even define them as games, but as like story delivery methods, it's great. So as long as the story holds up, then that's the important bit.
Yeah, it's as you play, it unravels more clues and even further things you can't solve until you solve all the clues. And it's one of those rage-inducing ones where you're sort of like, I'm so close, I feel like I'm on the edge. But as you keep playing, it unravels even further into this beautiful town with these two stereotypical cliche FBI agents. So it's got all these like stereotypical cliche characters, but you can't help but love them and want to help solve the murder of the dead body.
Tropes aren't bad. They're just tropes. You know what I mean? So they're not good or bad. It just depends on how well they're written. And I think that's kind of the big difference.
I think the pixel art is its best gimmick. Well, not gimmick, but it's like the most catching,
it's
memorable part of it. Yeah. It's what company, but
I guess the other one we should mention while we're talking about games that we've been playing a lot of. So I've suddenly been playing a lot of Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Right?
Suddenly?
Well,
I know.
okay, so I'm not a Street Fighter kid.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm not a Street Fighter kid. Like, and it's not because I dislike the game. It's just because no one in our group plays it. We all play anime fighters because we're all losers. And so like it's fine. Like. Yeah,
we know what we are.
I can hear Shane screaming out from the other way. It's like, no. But because we've been doing this throwdown events with Couch Warriors, I've been playing a lot more Street Fighter. Yeah. And so that obviously culminates.
You can't beat him, join him.
Look, and it's been pretty good. It's been interesting to see, like, they're doing all the announcements of they had all the invite players and stuff like that. So it's all this kind of tension behind who's coming, who's not.
Agreed.
Yeah, so that's been really cool. And then, you'd have intimate knowledge of Seam. Like,
yeah, that's right. My partner travel to Singapore to enter into the
Yeah.
Southeast Asian majors to compete, I guess. But a lot of other dark-sided esports pro players that also went and did extremely well.
They went as like a convoy, and because ZG was in top 8 or something like
Correct.
that.
And so someone was 9th. So really good feat for the trip. They all ended up like actually versing each other in their brackets, which they were like,
brutal.
travel to Singapore to play against my mates.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah,
Nice.
but they did so well.
But I guess the nice thing about it is at least you get to go over and level up. So like you
Correct.
go over, play against all these random people, even in casuals. And
Especially in that environment that we don't see enough here in Australia and Melbourne. So yeah, the vibe is, I love the convention vibe.
Yeah.
And then, like, speaking of conventions, we've got Catch Warriors stuff that's just passed, and like it's leading into stuff at PAX as well.
Yeah, and so
with
that
Throwdown.
with Throwdown. So that was the Throwdown stuff. But then also in December we got the December Ranbat. So that's the CQ venue, 500 people in the door. It's gonna be...
So if you guys are into like Infinite Marvel, Capcom Fighters, Injustice, Guilty Gear,
Blaze Blue, Injustice is going to be huge there this year.
Follow Couch Warriors.
Hopefully Dragon Ball Z Fighters as well, but that's a hope. That's a coming summer. That's how it works, isn't it?
I'm all about fingers crossed. I know standard. I don't need to go like.
A lot of stuff on the horizon. A lot of stuff on the horizon though with all of these fighting events though, and it just doesn't slow down.
No, this is the thing. Now's the time to strike with a lot of these esports events, and this is where obviously we've done a lot of work with the Couch Warriors. We do a lot of their fighting game streams. Now's the time to strike on that. And these guys have the knowledge, they have the experience, and so it's finally coming to the fore that all these things are coming. It's like, hey, do it with us, do it with us, do it with us. So. You know, it's good and it's just. You
sound sort of tired of it. You're
I'm tired. I'm just
dare
tired
they?
in general. PAX is in literally 3 days from when we film this.
It's too close. It's too close.
So I don't know. I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens post PAX with everything. So.
Yeah. And then not too long after that, BAM 10. BAM X?
Well, that's still a fair way off.
No, but
let's not rush things.
This entire year has gone too fast.
Yeah,
it's just flown past.
Yeah.
But we've got more coming up in the show very, very soon. We're going to be talking about South Park, the Fractured But Whole, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Melbourne International Games Week, as well as some stuff at the Unity Showcase. So stick around. We'll be right back real soon. Hello and welcome back to New Game Plus. The South Park: The Fractured But Whole has just come. It's a great name, isn't it? But it's just come out actually on a bunch of platforms. It was in development for quite a while, but it's finally hit us after the more recent South Park game, just before it. Jason and Jamie had the opportunity to speak a little to why the game's good, why you should buy it. We're going to find out real soon. Here's their review.
South Park: The Stick of Truth was one of those games which took everyone by surprise because, hey, it was a licensed game in this day and age, and it was really good. It had a great pedigree in the form of Obsidian. It had good writing and sharp. It took a lot of jabs at RPG tropes, and it was a really cool experience, even as someone who wasn't the biggest fan of South Park. Now, several years later, we have Ubisoft coming back to making another South Park RPG in the form of South Park: The Fractured But Whole. And yes, it is exactly what you think it is. I'm joined by South Park correspondent Jason to tell us all about his experiences.
By Midget in Bikini, correct?
Yes.
So I've been the South Park kid for years.
Yep.
Like, I'm that guy who even watched it through the years where you weren't allowed to watch South Park because whatever. And it is interesting to see how well the games have done because, you know, we've had, South Park Rally in the old days. We had, South Park 64.
Oh, God.
Chef's Love Shack, which, look, wasn't the worst, and that's as far as I'll say.
Okay.
But look, moral of the story is, Stick of Truth was great.
Yes.
Even if the combat system was very easily exploitable.
I guess that's kind of the point. Like you're not really there for the combat.
Exactly.
You're there for South Park.
It very quickly, it gets to the point where you're just progressing the story, and that's fine. As a delivery method for the story, Obsidian excelled in that. But this one, it just feels like you can tell that it's not necessarily Obsidian anymore.
Right.
And where it lacks a little bit of soul, it doesn't mean that it's
bad.
No, and it's not. And it's not a bad game. It doesn't tell its story particularly badly. There are times where you're like, whoa, even that's questionable from my point of view. But I think it does a reasonably good job of conveying the narrative, which is basically, it's the direct sequel to the first game.
Right.
And so they have the Stick of Truth. and then they say, "Screw you guys, I'm going home."
Yep.
And then
Now we're superheroes.
Now we're superheroes,
Which is fine.
And I love the whimsy that's attached to that. This idea that people take them seriously. That, oh, thanks superheroes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like it's a dumb little concept that actually really works.
Like, that's the thing that I take away from this. I love this idea of you're playing an RPG where kids are being superheroes. I love this fact it's kids using their imaginations to kind of decide, okay, we're going to change the rules as we go along. We're going to make stuff up as we go along. I love that idea. I think it is fantastic. I wish more games did this. And the same capacity, I almost kind of wish it wasn't a South Park game because don't get me wrong, I like South Park just as much as the next guy, but there's maybe sometimes the humor.
Look,
Tomato.
So sometimes they get a little bit too edgy. There's always a
Yes,
point.
of
This is the
course.
thing with South Park. For everyone who says, "Oh, it's just gross," even when there's not a point, there's a point. Like, they're doing it for a specific, and even if that specific reason is to gross you out or to make a point about censorship, and they do it a lot in this.
Yep.
So there's a scene where they're walking through the restaurant, and oh, I hate all these strange drug addicts being, and they're slurping their wine. Like, they're literally slurping their wine. There's jokes about strippers. There's jokes about
Like,
raisins
one of the
girls.
first things you do is you have a character, you have a skin slider, and you start from easy to very
Yes.
difficult, where easy is white, and
Yeah. And so but even then, like, people, like, it was funny. There was a reaction to that, and it
Yep.
was like, oh, these lefties will hate this. Like, no, that's the point these lefties
Yeah.
have been making the whole time. Like, you underestimate that everything that Trey and Matt do is based in that. But I think the main thing to cover is the combat. So
Yes.
the combat has changed. It's no longer stand in a line wait to get hit. It's kind of grid, almost chessy.
Yeah.
The Mega Man Battle Network was one that you mentioned.
Yep. Like, I think our friend Matt mentioned it in Enchanted Arts. Like, a lot of it's basically the core concept is positioning and
Yes.
spacing. Like, knowing how to, okay, my attack is going to do this, and knowing also with all the status effects and debuffs and buffs that was a big part of that last game.
And
It's
the
still
actual
there.
attack patterns have different shapes.
Yep.
So they're not straightforward or they're not left or right. Some of them can have, like, it's almost chess. That's where I come from, chess. Like, some of them are even like the shape of the knight. You have to move to the right. So it is all about that positioning. And while it never gets particularly difficult, and you can break it very early, not quite as early as you can break the combat in the last game, you can break the combat very early. It's still fun. It's still an engaging way to deliver the narrative, and it's a really good fun
Like, I
narrative.
wasn't laughing the whole time playing this game, but I still couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a win in my book.
Pretty much.
Welcome back. We just finished a review of South Park: This Fractured Butthole from Jamie and Jason. What do you guys think? I am still not sold. See, I'm not a massive South Park fan, but I really like the style of gameplay. Sell it to me, Jace.
Look, it is still the quintessential South Park game. Like, it's got the racy, edgelord humor, but like I guess the big thing to take away from South Park is there really is no wasted motion. Like, everything's there for a reason.
Exactly.
No, even when it's not making a point, it's making a point. Like, come on, Jack, come on.
I think at a certain point though, like it's kind of, when it's not making a point, it's making a point. Like, does it mean that at some points when it's trying to be smart or trying to be funny or trying to be subversive, that it just comes across as like awkward or crude, or it doesn't
Totally arrogant?
It's hard to land every joke.
The last few seasons have been tough for that because they've followed on chronologically, and as a result, they're not used to having the direct impacts of what's happened follow on, if that makes sense. So, and so that's been tough for them as a creative outlet. But
as a sequel?
as a sequel, it works, and because it follows directly canonically on. Now, spoiler alert, literally the guys just say, all right, screw this, we're playing Coon and Friends now. Like, that's literally how the whole game starts, right? So
It's a great premise, though.
It is, and like, so the core premise is fine. The actual combat itself, like I mentioned in the review, it's very much like chess. So it's about positioning, it's about all this. It can get racy, it can get gross, all that kind of stuff. But I still think the other one was worse for that kind of stuff. Like, I think Obsidian had a little bit more
gameplay?
fun with it. No, as far as like being crude and being
Disgusting.
gross.
Oh, yeah.
There's some kind of, again, even when they're doing these, like Glia mentioned, the skin tone. So if you start your character and
the
they have white
racism
skin,
side.
Yeah.
and so the game is harder if you're black, and so there's a
But if
point
you're
to
an
that joke.
achievement perfectionist, that's
Yes.
also a big deal too.
And so it is one of those things. So it's like, if that's your jam, like it is definitely a thing. So, like, it really is one of those things where it is going to be a tough sell to a non-South Park fan. Like, that is probably the bit that you're going to have to
if you're into that genre of gameplay, that's a big thing. Like, it adds a little bit more depth than just the crude humor, to be honest.
Yeah. But the problem at the same time is you can break, if you pay attention to the crafting, if you pay attention to the pickups and the drops, you can break the engine pretty quick. It's like the old one.
Wait, so is it that like the depth isn't there, or they tried to make it there?
No. It's just a case of you really have to pay attention and farm properly. So if you craft, if you farm, if you buy the right items at the right time, time. And it depends on, like, so how it works is you pick up different skills. So you start off, you've got 3 classes you can pick from.
Yep.
Then later on, you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, unlock all the classes, right? So once you've got all the classes, you can mix and match all your moves. So you can play the hero the way you want to play it.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
right.
different builds will affect different styles. So it's harder to play as X than it is to play as Y. But if you want to play as Y, there's broken ways to do stuff. So you can break the mechanics, but at the same time, that's half the fun sometimes. Like,
So, like, following up the back of the Stick of Truth,
Correct.
like
Yeah.
was the previous one, can you see any sort of direction? Like, even though this game took like heckin' ages to get out the door, like, where
but
do they
keep in mind,
go?
Stick of Truth took ages.
It did take ages.
So,
But where do they go?
And then it got censored, and then
Well, that's the one thing. This thing gets censored over here. But it is one of those things where, I don't know, there's not as much soul in the writing because it's not Obsidian. And Obsidian, for all intents and purposes, yeah, they may make buggy games, but they make very like visually arresting or like story arresting universes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, New Vegas might have been buggy, but God, it was fun to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for it to be just the raw Ubisoft team, it's a bit different, but I still think it's pretty good. It's enjoyable in its own right. But it is tough. If you're not a South Park, like, honestly, going back to the main point, if you're not a South Park fan, if you don't get off on that kind of humour,
If you are though,
Yeah.
out now on
PS4, Xbox, PC.
and PC.
Yeah, so no Switch, which I'm sure no one's surprised
Switch,
at.
yeah, it's heartbroken. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll be back after the break with a whole lot more very, very soon. Stick around to see more.
Welcome back. Jack had the opportunity to go to Unite 2017 earlier this week for Melbourne International Games Week. He had some opportunities to play some local Australian indie games, and here's what he had to say about what he experienced at the event.
Hey, Cringe here. I'm at Unite Melbourne 2017. This is a developer conference kind of focusing more on the Unity engine. It's actually been behind probably a lot of the games that you've played on mobile and actually more and more on console and PC. Unite has been an event running here at the Melbourne Convention Centre as part of Melbourne Games Week for, I think, a few years now. It was here at least last year. As per last year, they had the Unity showcase at the event this time, which was basically just kind of like an indie showcase. More or less, it's just showing a bunch of developers that are making use of Unity in fun, interesting, unique ways. And there was a really interesting spread of games, and I got to have hands-on with quite a few of them, actually. So I got to give Bounce House a go. This is a mobile game, mobile-ish. It's on iOS and Android, but I was playing it on an iPad. It's sort of a one-tap or one-swipe, you know, very sort of simple interactions. The thing that I loved about it, though, is that it's the way that you move is by jumping. It's entirely set on a jumping castle, and so you just bounce through the levels, which is how I want the rest of my life to be actually as well. The reason why you need to bounce is, I believe there are sort of collectibles in the level, you need to sort of rack up these points, but also there are spikes, there are other hazards throughout the level that you need to try and avoid, and I think there's also something chasing you, but I wasn't slow enough to get caught by it. But that was really good fun. Another game I got to play was Feather. Feather is pretty much an art house game. You play as a bird just flying around, sort of exploring the island. It's quite a large sort of area that you've got to fly around in, and you're not sort of trying to fulfill objectives. You're not trying to chase, you know, quest markers or anything like that. It is very much open-ended, and at one point in the game's lifespan, there were collectibles, which is probably why it was called Fruits of a Feather, because you were flying around collecting fruit. Now, funnily enough, when you hit the button to bring up the collectible, like how many you've gotten, it's just 0 out of 0. And Nick, the developer, said that he'd purposefully taken those out because he just wasn't a fan. The thing that there is to sort of find on the island, apart from the island itself, which is gorgeous, is these towers that trigger music to play while you're exploring the island, and the soundtrack by itself is gorgeous. But then when you have that as the backdrop to while you're exploring this island, essentially, it's, again, art house game. So it is very enjoyable. It is free currently. You can download it on itch.io. But Nick said, you know, he's looking at potentially developing it further. Like, does he want to sell it? Does he not? At this point in time, you can download it on itch.io. In the future, maybe Steam, who knows? Puzzle Poppers from Cardboard Keep is another mobile game on iOS and Android. It was in beta testing a little while ago, and it's pretty much a puzzle game where you have to get the dogs to the food. The way that you do that is by stretching you don't like move the dog, you stretch the dog around the grid, and so it's a puzzle game essentially. And you've got collectibles that you can pick up to sort of 100% levels, or you can just actually get the dogs to the food, and it's got a surprisingly smooth learning curve. There aren't a whole lot of elements in it, truthfully. It's more or less just figuring out how to lead the dogs around the level to try and 100%. If you're not 100%ing the game, or you're not interested in doing that, I feel like it's not going to hold your attention for quite as long. If you are, I was prone to getting frustrated by it when it was in beta, actually. But at the moment, it's got a really, really good learning curve, actually. It's free on both Android and iOS, and it's absolutely adorable. And I've been looking for a puzzle game that isn't sort of timing focused, and that's Puzzle Poppers, so hit that up. And lastly, I got to try the Adventure Pals from a developer called Massive Monster. I think it's a duo of devs. One is based in Sydney, and I think one is based in the UK. I think, but it's a cute sort of side-scrolling action game, kind of like a beat 'em up. When I first saw it, I was like, is this kind of like a Castle Crashers kind of deal? But they were like, no, we're taking sort of, in terms of the visuals, they're taking inspiration from a few different sources. Gravity Falls was one of the sources that they mentioned, and it is really gorgeous. It is really cute. The giraffe that you have in your backpack, for example, that's a sentence. Yeah, the giraffe in your backpack is adorable. The giraffe helicopter, where it just flings its tongue around, and that's how you glide in it. Perfect. It was really good fun actually playing 2-player, and so I imagine that will be probably the best way, or one of the best ways to play it. It's coming to a few consoles, to my knowledge. He did mention Switch, and so I'm keen as heck to get that on Switch, because I have a crippling addiction to buying Switch games at the moment. So all of that's out or coming out. I think Adventure Pals actually was the only one that isn't out right now. So keep an eye out for that one, coming out very, very soon. The others you should be able to download now, actually. Puzzle Poppers is available on mobile, so is Bounce House, and then of course Feather you can download for PC on itch.io. So that was the Unity Showcase. Bunch of indie games. There were even more up there, and there's going to be even more at PAX coming up very, very soon.
And we're back after we've just heard Jack's impressions of Unite 2017 from Melbourne International Games Week. Jack is sitting right next to me right here. Hello.
Hi, I'm right here. I don't leave.
What were the highlights of Unite 2017?
Unite was really interesting because like they had such a huge space to work with. They had like so much, like it was incredibly open. In that that segment, I made sure to put in like some of the shots, and it was like way more open than a lot of the other events because Unite is developer specific.
Right.
And so like you won't have a bunch of like people that have like a weekend to burn, and they're like, oh, PAX is on, let's go to PAX, and then the entire convention center fills, and you just
in queues the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Just standing in queues because you can. The games looked gorgeous, really top tier. And were there any standouts that you can recall at this time?
Yeah, so like the 4 that I had there were like kind of an interesting, fun mix of like some of the stuff that was on offer there. There were a few other games, and I truthfully can't remember some of the names of them because there were just so many games there.
Yeah,
and there were like some VR games. There was like a really interesting spread.
Yeah.
But in terms of like other events coming up, because like Unite is just like part of the beginning of Games Week.
Correct.
We had.
Bring it all back firstly. What is it all about? What is Melbourne International Games Week?
Yeah, so Melbourne International Games Week is kind of like a celebration of games as a medium, as gaming culture, and so it kind of like tries to bring in people that either are so neck deep in that they can't escape, i.e. devs.
It's a celebration basically,
it is.
And like celebrates diversity and the local community and the influences around it.
Well, I mean, Melbourne's been known in the community for really fostering a lot of development talent locally.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, like Unite is specific obviously to Unity, the game engine, and then you've got sort of stuff that cast the net a little bit wider, like GCAP loading for students, and then GCAP proper for like devs that have been kind of established in the space for a while. And then you've got sort of family events, stuff at, kind of like at Acme, and then diversity, like you mentioned earlier, like a lot of, there are some events with like a lot of focus on women in games, which is still very,
so there's
very
a lot of panels and like a lot of people higher up in the food chain of the gaming industry as well, shedding their knowledge and experience of the industry and how they got to where they are today, which is supposed to inspire and really motivate people that are striving to get somewhere in a very small niche industry.
Yeah, and then like of course like PAX is like the big one that kind of blows it all up. Like it's 3 days of non-stop action, so much stuff on that show floor, so many people to to watch, whether it's at panels or like on the show floor.
It's my
terrifying.
Christmas. I
Like, I
thrive
love
for it
it.
the whole year round. I look forward to it more than anything, and I'm hyped. It's going to be a massive, massive weekend.
Well, we've got that episode coming up next week on the show, actually, where by the time you're watching this on C31, we'll have actually covered PAX, but
Yeah.
because of the magic
Hang
of
in there.
television,
Yeah.
that's going to be coming up next week. So we're going to have stuff coming from PAX, indie wraps, developer interviews, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So make sure that if you want to see all of that, make sure that you're following us online.
If you can't get a ticket, like, this is where it's at.
100%.
Come to New Game Plus.
Well, I mean, obviously, watch us next week.
Yeah.
Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. C31.
Whoa.
But then,
Yeah.
off the hook.
You're quick.
But then follow us on everything online because you have an internet thing, I hope. I'll make the NBN joke as much as I want, but follow us on YouTube and Twitch as well, youtube.com/NewGamePlusTV and twitch.tv/NewGamePlusTV. Our website is newgameplus.tv where you can find all of that video content. And then on the socials as well, twitter.com/NewGamePlusTV and facebook.com/NewGamePlusTV. Follow us, you know you want to. But that's it for this episode.
Awesome. It's been a big jam-packed sesh.
100%.
Loving it.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
We will talk to you guys real soon.
See ya.